Budget cuts in the National Prosecuting Authority are affecting the placement of aspirant prosecutors in the country's lower courts. The NPA's 2024 Aspirant Prosecutor program was halted last year, with the Justice Minister Ronald Lamola saying there's no money to pay interns. Democratic Alliance's Advocate Glynnis Breytenbach joins us now to take a look at this program. Thank you very much, Glynnis, for your time this morning in trying to understand the impact of this decision. What is the point of this prosecutor program? What gap is it trying to plug?
Well, you know, there's a serious shortage of prosecutors in South Africa at every level. So at entry level and at sort of the mid-level and the very experienced level. And the Aspirant Prosecutors program is designed to take young law graduates and introduce them to the criminal law system, the criminal justice system. They do a sort of an internship on the Aspirant Prosecutors program, where they get paid, you know, not a huge amount, but they get paid a reasonably decent salary, and learn the job of a prosecutor for a year. And at the conclusion of that program, if they complete it successfully, generally they are then employed within the NPA at some level, or within the Department of Justice at some level. And it fills a lot of gaps. There's quite a big attrition rate in prosecuting. You know, prosecutors spend 2, 3, 4 years learning the ins and outs of the courts, of prosecuting of criminal law and the application thereof, and then they're headhunted in the private sector. They leave and go to the bar. They leave and go into practice as an attorney. So there's quite a big turnover of staff at a lower level. And the Aspirant Prosecutors program is designed to ensure that, you know, that there's a constant pool of appropriately qualified people with some experience that can fill those gaps. And so it's an essential program, and it's exceptionally concerning that the program was, for all intents and purposes, canned last year, and the last group who completed their aspirant program at the end of 2023, many of them have written to me and told me that they have been told that they will not be taken up in employment in the Department of Justice, or in the National Prosecuting Authority. That's a serious problem. It means there's nothing coming into the system to fill the gaps of those who are leaving, and it means that in 2024 the program will not run, and so you've got a massive backlog of people who should be taking up space in the National Prosecuting Authority and learning the ropes, who are just not going to be available. And it's very difficult to make up that gap should funds become available later on. But, you know, it's very worrying because government tells us that they're serious about fighting corruption, that they're serious about fighting crime. South African crime stats were published late last year. They're horrendous. And yet the budget cuts continue. And if they're serious about fighting crime, if they're serious about a no-tolerance approach to crime, then they've got to fund those departments that fight crime. And constant budget cuts in those departments, while there are constant bailouts in bankrupt and non-functioning SOEs, just means that, you know, we're never going to get a handle on crime in this country. And this Aspirant Prosecutors program is a serious source of talent, and it's now being denied to the National Prosecuting Authority, making it even harder for them to do their job, and they're already struggling.
You speak of a serious shortage of prosecutors, and you speak of this program potentially filling the gap in terms of those who leave the space. And so those who are left in the space, what is the quality or caliber of prosecutors in South Africa?
Well, there's a range of different, you know, of various stages of learning the job of a prosecutor. It can't be learned at university. It can only be learned on the job. It's one of those jobs that requires experience and expertise, which is learned on the job. So there are young prosecutors who are new in the system who are still learning, and they will be, you know, deployed in the lower courts with less serious offences, and then there's the middle echelon of prosecutors who deal with the more serious offences and in the regional court, and then you have, you know, the state advocates who deal with matters in the High Court, and then you have the specialist departments within the NPA who are really prosecutors who ideally should have, it's not the case at the moment, but ideally should have at least 20 years of experience. To be a specialist prosecutor and to understand the intricacies and ramifications of criminal law and the application thereof, you need at least 20 years of experience. So there's a shortage of prosecutors at every level. There's a shortage of prosecutors at the entry level because now there's no one coming in. People in the middle level are leaving because they're going to move to, different jobs, and that's just the nature of the beast. But there's no one coming up from the lower levels to fill those spots because there's no one coming into the system, which means that there'll be less people gaining the necessary experience, and so the knock-on effect throughout the NPA will be felt. And it's bad for the criminal justice system, and it's bad for getting a handle on crime.
Glynnis, is it naive to think that a party such as yours, that at every opportunity will bemoan corruption in South Africa or bemoan state capture to possibly help and plug the gap here for these young prosecutors, more so when given the reasons that you've outlined as to why this program is so important? If we're not able to eradicate corruption because of such programs falling through the cracks, is it naive to imagine that there's something you can do to help?
Well, the only thing that we can do to help, and we do try, is to engage with the Department of Justice, the Minister, and the NPA, which we do on a regular basis, to find out how we can help. And we have made suggestions. They've not all been implemented. We do have ideas, but the crime, the fighting thereof, and those competencies are national government competencies, which opposition parties have very little input into or control over. We have in the Western Cape, designed a program of watching briefs to try and assist the criminal justice system to keep flowing. It's worked really well. We're trying to roll it out in other provinces, and it's been effective. But it's a pro bono assistance that's given that doesn't fill the gaps of a lack of prosecutorial staff or expertise that it cannot do. And so, there are avenues that can be explored, but they, will require political will on the part of the government, and we've not found that to be the case up to now.
And in terms of holding government to account with this political will, how have those efforts been going?
Well, we, of course, we have regular interactions with the Minister, both in terms of written questions and questions in Parliament. The answers are what they are, and they're not always what we hope to get, but, they are what they are. We engage with the Minister as the Justice Portfolio Committee, and of course, the opposition party members and the DA members on that committee engage with the Minister on these issues regularly, as we do with the National Prosecuting Authority. In the budget cycle now that ended, during the budget speeches, we again bemoaned the lot of the criminal justice system, of the fact that budgets are being cut and that the job cannot be done without money. If you need prosecutors, you've got to be able to pay them. If you need courts, you've got to be able to build them. If you need police to investigate matters, you've got to be able to pay them. And yet, the budget cuts are constantly affecting the criminal justice system. The police's budget gets cut. The National Prosecuting Authority's budget has been reduced, and so it carries on. The Minister is perfectly aware of the fact that without money, we are not going to get on top of crime. And South Africa really is one of the crime capitals of the world, and it's exceptionally concerning. South African citizens just simply don't feel safe. And they have a right to feel safe in their own country.
Thank you very much for your time this morning, DA MP Glynnis Breytenbach.